Hey everyone, I'm back for episode 7 of I Just Blocked Off. As promised, I did the Western Conference tiers of the NBA last time. Now it's time for the Eastern Conference tiers. So we'll get right into it. Um, the East is going to be kind of a mess. Um, you know, as I mentioned, Tatum and Halliburton both gone for the year. Arguably, like I think I said, two of the four best players in the conference, which I stand by. I still think that's true. So they're going to be out for the entire season. So it's going to be a little interesting. I'll start at the top. I think most people feel this way, so I'm not breaking out any hot takes here, but I have Cleveland and New York in the top tier. I would give the edge to the Knicks. I think Cleveland has a better roster and more talent. They're also way into the second apron. They would have to essentially dump DeAndre Hunter for nothing to get out of the second apron, or a commensurate amount of salary. That's going to be a hard sell for a team that's trying to win the title, who feels like they have a shot at the whole thing right now with that diminished conference around them. The real reason I have the Knicks in the top spot is just, it's nothing. It's not like a big brain reason or anything. It's just they've just accomplished more. They made the conference finals this year. I think both they and the Cavs have some major players who they could look to move. For the Knicks, it's Cat. For the Cavs, it's Darius Garland and Jared Allen to a lesser extent, if they decided that they just want to build their team around Mitchell and Mobley. I think that they would be able to get a good, really, really nice return if they traded Mitchell and Allen, or not Mitchell, Garland and Allen somewhere as a package deal, if they could figure out how to do that, maneuvering around the aprons and all of their cap constraints. But yeah, I think the Knicks have accomplished more. I think they have the best player out of those two teams. Their identity wasn't quite the same this past year after trading for Cat. But I still think they're really good. I think they still have four really, really good players who are going to be there for the long haul, in Brunson and Bridges and Anunoby and Josh Hart. I think Bridges, they're going to look to change up his role a little bit, give him a little more responsibility in the offense. It seemed like he got a little bit lost in the shuffle and didn't appreciate that, which I think is part of the reason why Tibbs is no longer the coach there. I think Mike Brown is going to be fine. He did a good job in Sacramento. The team just kind of fell apart around him. I think that was more of a front office issue than a coaching issue. Although, clearly the relationship between him and De'Aaron Fox got strained. But I think he's going to do a good job. I like the depth signings that they've made. I think Yabusele is going to be good there. I think Jordan Clarkson is going to be good there. They just needed a couple more guys. I don't think they would have beaten Indiana if they had those two guys, but it was clear that they were grasping for straws by the end of the series. So I think they're going to be really good. I think Cleveland's going to be really good too. I think that, they just haven't proven it yet. They've looked a little soft. They've gotten, they haven't responded to adversity very well in the playoffs. They have, for as much talent as they have, they should have more playoff series wins under their belt, I guess is what I'm saying. So moving on from that top tier, I think this is where I'm going to differ the most from the consensus. I have Milwaukee in their own tier by themselves next. A lot of people have aptly pointed out they don't really have a point guard. Cole Anthony is fine, but he's probably better suited as a reserve guard than as a starter. I just love what they did. they had to jump through some crazy hoops to get Turner and to make all these changes to their roster. But I love it. They clearly decided that they are not going to lose Giannis by just sitting on their hands. They said we're gonna keep on doubling down. We're gonna keep investing in this guy, and if it doesn't work out, so be it. It's gonna get ugly either way if he decides to leave. So we're just gonna put everything we have into this. And so, Giannis has also said, he said in his end of season comments after they lost to the Pacers, that he wants to play more like LeBron. He wants to have more of a chance to be that initiating ball handler. And in particular, if he wants to do that, then Turner is a great fit. I think he's just a better version of Brook Lopez at this point in his career in pretty much every way. I don't think that he's going to age super gracefully. The last year of that contract could be kind of questionable. He's had some medical red flags. Actually, a really funny story from when he was coming out in the draft, because literally just the way that he runs was highlighted as a red flag just because of the way that it distributes forces around his lower extremities. A lot of doctors for teams thought that was a risk, and that was going to kind of line him up for injuries going forward in his career. But he's been good. He was really good for Indiana. I think this is an even better fit for him because Milwaukee's going to play a lot slower. He's going to space the floor. He's going to protect the rim. That's exactly what you need with Giannis. Like I said, we saw that work with Brook Lopez while he was still a little bit younger. Brook Lopez is just at a different stage of his career now. And they have a ton of other guys who can shoot. So I think Milwaukee's going to be really good. Giannis, I think, is just by far the best player in the conference with Tatum being out this year. I think, even from him to Brunson, I think is a really big gap. So I really like Milwaukee. I really like what they did. I think they're going to be really good. The next tier after that, and this will be where I wrap up this, I'll do another part 1, part 2, maybe even a part 3 if I forget about something again. But the next tier is Orlando, Atlanta, and Detroit. Again, a lot of people would have several of these teams ahead of Milwaukee. I already went through my whole Milwaukee case there. Out of those 3, I think I would put Orlando first, just because I like their players the most. But I think people are way too high on them. I mean, yeah, I thought the Bane trade was great. I think he's going to be a great fit for them. He is still their only starter who can consistently hit threes. Their core players are always hurt, and they don't have a quality starting center. I mean, they have 3 guys who should be backup centers between Carter and Goga and Mo Wagner and Jonathan Isaac, if you want to throw him in there as a center as well. I think this team is going to be a lot better, but they still have a lot of holes in their roster that they need to address. So I think they'll be really good, just not like, I have a really, really hard time imagining them getting to the finals, which a lot of people say that they think Orlando can do. I think that's crazy, frankly. After them, I would have Atlanta. Atlanta, they're playing, they're the play-in stalwarts right now with Miami. But I do really like the moves that they made. They are betting on Porzingis staying healthy, which is questionable. If he does stay healthy, then he's a really good fit for them. I think Nickeil Alexander-Walker is a really good fit for them. And they just have, they have all of these other defensive-minded wings already on their roster. So I think that they have the right mix of players to put around Trae. I don't know about Trae. Like, when they got to the conference finals, he had really nice moments in the playoffs. Since then, it hasn't been that great. So we'll see. This is the ultimate test for them. and for him in particular. So we'll see what happens with them. I think they'll be good. I would not be surprised at all if they're like a top 3 seed in the conference. And then we'll see if they can do something in the playoffs now that they're actually qualify outright to be in the playoffs. And then Detroit is the third team in that tier. They lost a few important players to their team. I think they really liked Schroeder. I think Hardaway and Beasley were really important to them, especially Beasley as shooting threats. Beasley may end up going back there because he's cleared the federal gambling probe. And, they traded for Duncan Robinson. They moved out Simone Fontecchio to get him in there. So, I think they'll be good again. Jaden Ivey is going to be back at some point. I think that's going to help them. I think that they're probably still a year away from being really, really, really good. And unfortunately, a year from now, Tatum and Halliburton are going to be back. And we'll see what happens with all the other teams in the conference. So I don't know. I think they're going to be good. I don't know what their ceiling really is. So I'll stop there for now. Come back for part 2 to go over the rest of the conference.